Hey everyone, it's Charlie Morgan here. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to guarantee that you stay poor forever. Now, I am a wealthy man, and I made my money online at a young age. I was a millionaire at 21, multi-millionaire by 22, and I'm now 27, and I've made coming up on $40 million online. And I know a lot of people who are very wealthy, and I know a lot of people who are very broke. And there's a lot of distinctions between those two people. And so what you're probably used to hearing online is everyone telling you how to get rich, and everyone telling you, like, do this and start this business and run this thing and make this decision and follow this person and install this shiny object and eat this thing and you'll get rich. Yeah, that's kind of useful, but what I've always found very helpful to making money, building businesses and achieving financial freedom is figuring out what not to do and then just avoiding that like the plague. And so my favorite strategy for building wealth has always not been doing the right thing, but just avoiding the wrong thing. In fact, one of my favorite billionaires, Charlie Munger, who passed away a year or two ago, he said, all I want to know in life is where I'm going to die so I don't go there. And I think that's a pretty smart thing to say. So if you want to know how to not be poor, you just need to figure out what poor people do and then avoid it. So let's go inside because I'm getting a bit cold out here actually. And then it's a beautiful day. I'm in Scotland, and I don't know if you can see that over there. There's a knight. Can you see that? Like a stone knight. Doesn't get much more Scottish than that, or at least European, right? So the first thing that poor people do that rich people don't is they don't understand money. And let me close this. So what rich people do is they will look for opportunities to invest money, and poor people will look for opportunities to spend money. And so often is the case that it's not about how much money you can make, and it's not about your earning potential that makes you rich. It's about your management potential. Now, are you going to get rich and, be financially free forever if you're making like 20 to 30 grand a year? Probably not. But a lot of people, what they do, and the reason they stay broke, is because they just look for reasons to spend money. And instead of seeing money as a tool to make more money, they see money as an opportunity to basically spend it. And that might sound really trivial, and that might sound really obvious, but I would invite you to assess your perception of money. So rich people, the reason that they want to make money is so they can make more money. But the reason you probably want to make money is to fulfill insecure drives and desires to buy things and spend money on stupid things. And if you don't believe me, just go and have a look at your goals. Like, why do you want to make your money? It's probably because you want to buy a car. And look, I'm not saying that having goals is a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, you kind of want to be making very good money for 5 to 10 years before you start buying things. Because money multiplies. And rich people understand that, but poor people, they tend to struggle to gauge it. The second thing that poor people do that keep them poor is they play the victim. And so what they do is they basically say that I'm poor because of the government, or I'm poor because of climate change. Most people don't say that one. But they'll say, I'm poor because of the government, or I'm poor because I grew up in a low-income household, or I'm poor because my internet connection doesn't work, or because of my accent, or because of this, or because I'm this person or that person, this identity, that race, that gender. And so what happens is they basically play the victim. And instead of facing the pain of assuming the responsibility of their financial state, they basically absolve themselves of that by pointing the finger and saying, I'm not rich, or I'm not successful because of him, her, this, that, or the other. The third thing that poor people do that makes them poor and keeps them poor is they take advice from people who are poor. And I don't know why people do this, but look, people generally give advice to you with your best interests at heart. And so, if your mum or your dad or your grandparents or something, they might, everyone's got something to say. Everyone's got a piece of advice to give you. But when it comes to money, investing money, managing money, keeping money, spending money, making money, everyone's going to give you their opinion, but that doesn't mean they're right. And just because someone's got good intentions, and just because someone has pure intentions to make sure that you're okay and happy, doesn't mean they're right. If their heart's in the right place, they can still be wrong. And so what I see a lot of poor people doing is listening to other poor people about how to make money, earn money, keep money, manage money, invest money, and lo and behold, what happens? Well, they stay poor because someone's advice is only as good as the results that they've gotten as a result of using that advice. And information is, basically a tool that we can use to act out on. Our actions come from the information we have available to us. And if that information is faulty or not rooted in the truth, then we're in trouble. The next thing that poor people do, the fourth thing, is they look for shiny objects. So what they'll do is, instead of looking at, building long-term capital value or thinking in long-term time horizons, what they'll do to try and make money and what they'll do to try and build wealth or build financial success is they'll look for the easiest, fastest, shortest way that requires the least amount of pain and the least amount of effort possible. And the thing about that is, yeah, that sounds great, but that's not how you make money. Making money and building a business, to do that is hard. It takes a lot of time. It's not fast, it's not easy, it's not short, and it requires a lot of effort. And so anytime that you find a shiny object that you think is going to make you wealthy and successful with very little minimal effort, it's not going to work. Why? Because if it worked, then everybody would be doing it and it wouldn't work anymore. And that's usually what happens with these shiny objects is an opportunity unfolds on the market, like start a marketing agency or start drop shipping. And then what people realize who pioneer it or pioneer the money-making method is they're like, I can make more money by teaching people how to start this business. And then what happens is everyone starts that business, and then the business model is no longer has efficacy because everyone started one, and now the market is flooded with competitors, and it stops working. And so that's kind of like, think of it like being being in a herd of water buffalo, and you find a watering hole, and you're like, oh my God, this water's amazing. And then you go back to the herd and you tell everyone, here's the water. And then the next day you wake up and all the water's been drunk. That's the shiny object syndrome, make money online thing that poor people fall into. Instead, you want to focus on building long-term value and sticking to something for a long time. The fifth thing that poor people do is, on that note, they don't stick to things. And so what they'll do is they'll jump between business model to business model to business model. And they don't stick to anything for more than a couple of weeks or a couple of months tops. And what they'll do is they'll start a business or they'll start trying to make money in some sort of way. And after a month or two, when they don't see any results from that thing, they'll jump to the next thing. And the truth is that to create wealth and to create value and to become a person of competitive value in any market requires you to build some depth of understanding, knowledge, and action in a specific field. And if you can't build depth, i.e. all of the business ventures you've ever tried are really shallow, then you're screwed. Think of this, like poor people try and build businesses like people who are really in unhappy relationships build relationships. Like a lot of people who are really bad with relationships is like, let's say you've got a guy who's really broken and he wants a girlfriend, but he has like commitment issues. And so what he'll do is he'll jump from girl to girl, and he'll be with one person for a month or two, another person for a week or two, another person for a couple of months, and then another person for a couple of months, and he's shallow. And what that means is all of his relationships are shallow. And so what you want to avoid is having a shallow business where you just hop into something and then it doesn't work for like a month or two, so then your instant gratification monkey brain just decides to do the next thing. The next thing that poor people do, and I want to be careful sort of phrasing this, they spend too much time learning and not enough time doing. And so one thing that's really critical, one critical mistake that poor people make when they try and make money is they get stuck in, like they mistake education. They mistake education for action. The truth is that education is usually procrastination. Like right now, you're watching this video, but you probably know to a degree what to do or what direction you need to go in, or at least you could probably figure that out. But instead you just sit here and consume content. And this content makes you feel warm and fuzzy and productive because, well, we're here discussing something about making money and that's kind of what you want to do. So it's aligned with your goals and it feels good and your serotonin's up, your dopamine's up and you feel like you're making progress. But really the only thing that's actually going to move you forward and help you actually make money is doing stuff and implementing the things that you've learned. And what I found, having made a shit ton of money at a very young age, is you don't need to learn much. Like you need to learn a little and then implement a lot. So generally speaking, you want to isolate and find the knowledge that you need and implement that as ruthlessly and with as much energy as you possibly can. But what a lot of people do is they absorb and consume so much information, and then what happens is they get information overload, and then they just can't do anything because they've got too much information in their head. And now they're like, shit, well, I've got too much information, so I just don't know what to do. And then they get confused. And then they spend all their time learning and reading and listening and watching instead of actually doing. And so on that note, you should go and do it. Bye.